My name is Wayne Abrahamson, graduate student at University of West Florida, and for my research project I picked Captain William Sebree. Captain William Sebree was an important figure in not only Pensacola's history but also Kentucky's history. He was born in Virginia in 1785. His family migrated to Kentucky when he was a youth, and he grew up in a somewhat prominent family, and by the outbreak of War of 1812, he was had enough name, been around enough to have been nominated as a captain for the 8th Infantry Company, which was part of the 10th Kentucky Infantry Regiment, militia detached. And he enlisted in April 29th, 1812, trained up his company. Then in March 1813, his company was ordered to Ohio to fight the British and Indians up in Fort Meigs, which is northern Ohio, north of Cincinnati. He fought there with distinction, and at one point his company was involved in an engagement where him and his company held off a British and Indian force 4 times their number, in which he received valor and distinguished for that battle. After the War of 1812, he returned to Kentucky, got involved in the state politics there, and by 1883, possibly before, he was nominated to be a marshal for the state of Kentucky. He held that post briefly, but then was all of a sudden nominated to be a marshal for the District of West Florida. And by 1824, he was down here in Pensacola as the marshal for the District of West Florida. And going through a lot of the primary documents, his duties are quite varied. He was the seller, the probator of confiscated properties of tax evaders, criminals, and had to sell them at public auctions. He was involved in settling disputes between dueling. Dueling was still popular in Florida, even though it was outlawed in other states like Georgia and Mississippi. Dueling was still occurring here, and he had to settle disputes to try to prevent dueling. He also was frustrated by the lack of community funds or public funds. At one point, he had to release all the criminals from the Pensacola jail because he had no money to maintain them in jail. So he was quite busy between 1824 and 1827 as a marshal here with those various duties. By 1826, he had married Miss Ann S. Clark, who was previously married, and his stepson, the previous marriage results in a son, and his stepson is buried right next to him. But by 1827, while he was still in office, he died suddenly. The records indicate exactly what he died of, but there was a yellow fever epidemic in 1827, and that could be the cause of his death. And he was interned here in 1827. Again, he was a captain in the Kentucky State Militia. He was a marshal for the state of Kentucky. He was a marshal for the District of West Florida, which was really just becoming an American territory. He had quite an influence here in the area, and he was sorely missed by his family, and very interesting character.